now. I started a podcast at the beginning of November called Investing Across Borders. We're going to invite all of you to join it. And Rebecca is my first Brit that I have brought on this podcast. And I brought Rebecca on for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is that Rebecca has, like me, gone through the process herself and now helps others go through the process with her and with me and with all the other professionals in this group. And we are really focused on helping people find strategies and solutions to move themselves and their families and their businesses potentially from Britain over to the US. Rebecca, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in, I guess it's kind of Central Florida, and what brought you there and what prompted you to become a realtor?
Oh gosh, well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I like to say it's a lovely, glorious, sunny morning in Florida when I come to my group, but it's a little bit chilly today, hence the cardigan. And I did have a scarf on, but I thought I might be a little bit slightly overdressed. So, like everyone else, when you come to Florida, you do Disney, you do the parks, and we wanted to live the American dream, and my husband, who you just met, Keith, is by trade, he's a carpenter and joiner, which is in one of the shortage skill sets. So every time we used to come, he used to apply for many different jobs, and he was very, very lucky. And I stress this to everybody because people who come to the group, there are two sets of people that come to my group. Sets of people that want to invest into visas, and separate sets of people who are looking to get jobs. Now, when my husband got a job, we were very, very fortunate. The climate was very, very different. And we are talking nearly 6 years ago now. And it was very, very
Definitely
different.
pre-COVID.
Yeah, all very pre-COVID. He was very fortunate to be offered a job in the skilled sector, in the skilled worker. And he was offered a job, and they were willing to sponsor him for a green card, and we were lucky to piggyback that. Now, that all seems very, very simple and all lovely, and it wasn't. It took over 4 years for us to get here, because UCIS, in their ultimate wisdom, kept screening our application. The employer has to go through lots of hoops. It is very invasive, it's costly, it's very time consuming. They have to give
So let's stop you for just a moment there. You mentioned costly. So what part of that is costly if the employer is sponsoring you?
So the employer has to pay for all of the sponsorship for the green card. So they have to make sure there's lots of hoops and hurdles they have to jump through. So it's not just my husband turned up for an interview, which he did via several interviews via Zoom. It's not just, oh yeah, he was the best person for the job. They then have to advertise that job in American newspapers. If no one applies for that job, they then have to prove that he's the best person via the US Labour Department. And then we got a Labour certification. Once we got the Labour certification, which isn't after weeks or months, we were talking years. So the job still has to be maintained to be open, and it can't be fulfilled. So if someone had come along who was equally or better qualified than my husband, they would have had to.
You're done. And the whole thing is for naught.
Yeah. So, and meanwhile, the company is forking out money for attorney fees.
Yep. And other fees, not just lawyer fees, but there's a bunch of certifications that you need, and various analyses and third-party certifications, and it's not an easy process. I mean, I know I went through it myself, so it's not an easy process, and it's different in the skilled trades, which is why when we're in the group, we talk so much about the prospect of having control and doing your own investment, because it is in your control. Whereas when you're doing it through an employer, granted, you don't have to make an investment, but you also don't have the control.
No,
So,
you don't, and you're at the mercy very much of the Labour Department, the USCIS, and
mhm,
you can't pick up the phone and say,
nope,
"Hi, it's Rebecca O'Leary, just wanting to know how my application's going on," because you're not making that application. The employer's making that
right.
application. They're the
Mhm.
petitioner. You can't check on the internet because although I've posted on the Facebook group, this is the link to the USCIS, put in your application number. It's not very much up to date, and
No,
it's really frustrating because we were initially told that we would be in the US within 2 years because we were coming up within the skilled labor sector, and like I said, it took us over 4 years to get here because our application was continually stopped and audited, and it was a nightmare. Keith was very lucky that the company that employed him was so keen to have him because of his skill
right.
set. They stuck with it. But like I said, when people come to the group and they come in a sense with rose tinted glasses, thinking, I can just go on Indeed, there's a job, I can do all of those things and I can get it. It isn't just as simple as that, unfortunately. And I wish it was, because in America, we are very, very short on skilled trades,
Absolutely.
electricians,
Yep.
plumbers, bricklayers, carpenters and joiners, just like my husband. We are short of all of those trades, but it isn't as simple as, unfortunately, getting the job and then turning up a month later. Unfortunately, we did it, so I'm not saying it isn't possible. It is possible, but it's going to take you a long time and patience, and an employer that is willing to put time and effort into that.
And these days, the problem also is that there are so many people out of work in America because of COVID
Yeah.
that the times have changed drastically
Yeah.
since Rebecca and Keith and their family applied. And the other part of that puzzle is, as Rebecca said, your employer has to stay committed to doing this. So they have to really be 100% on board and can't have any second guessing. So one of the things that we talk about in the group is a lot of people are asking about jobs, and obviously we can't help you get jobs, but getting sponsorship is just that much harder than it was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even 2 years ago. And the visa that Rebecca and her husband came in on, the L1, is actually currently still on hold. They're not even issuing them at the moment. They're not issuing any L1s or H1Bs or various other visas during this hold. So it becomes that much more complicated. So I always like, especially with Brits or Canadians or others that I work with most often that have access to the E2 visa, to definitely use the E2 visa. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the E2, and then we're going to switch over because, as I said, we're recording this for a podcast, and we will be happy to share that podcast link with you so you can listen to it. But Rebecca, I know that we've been talking with a lot of prospective E2 applicants. Have you worked with any E2 applicants yet that have been investing in real estate as the basis for the E2?
We've talked with quite a few on the page that have come through and asked lots of questions, and I think it's quite a British thing. We like to definitely do lots of research before, yeah, and I think that is, and that's very different culturally to in compared to Americans, whereas they'll ask one question and they'll go straight in and probably ask questions later. So yes, and you and I have spoken to lots of different British people on the page that are very, very interested in moving forward. But when it comes to making that commitment and then putting the money down and then moving forward, then that's something different. But yes, we have been working with a few people. There's some that are due to come out next year and look at some real estate with us, and hopefully do some business plans with you. But I mean, the page moving to Florida from the UK has only literally been going since January, and already we've got, I think, about 260 members now.
Yeah, and it's pretty active because a lot of the members are really excited about the prospects and don't realize, indeed, a lot of lawyers, a lot of realtors don't realize that you can use real estate as the basis for your investment in the US and qualify for a visa. Now, this does not mean, and I'm going to be very, very clear here, and by the way, none of this is legal advice, just saying, okay? This does not mean that you can buy a single family home or a couple of single family homes and qualify for a visa. That's not what this is about. This is about a true real estate investment business, a property management component of the business, a commercial component of the business. It's about creating a strategy around your real estate investments. Now, I don't think anybody in any of the groups that we are in could possibly say that real estate, no matter how the market is not a good investment. It's one of the best investments in the world, anywhere. And the reality is that the hardest thing to do is that first investment. And for everybody that's in this group and that's not in this group, that's listening to this podcast, it's important to understand that that first investment is the hardest to jump over. And as Rebecca said, sometimes Brits and Canadians are guilty of the same thing, because of course Canadians are heavily influenced by the UK. And we sometimes overanalyze and over-research and miss opportunities. Well, let me tell you that the opportunities are never going to be better than they will in the next 6 months to a year. Why? Because there's been this phenomenon, I guess, in the US called mortgage forbearance. And what mortgage forbearance does, which is different than mortgage forgiveness, is it delays your payments, but it doesn't delay them until the end of your mortgage. What happens is, in most cases, all of a sudden, those payments that you didn't pay through COVID, through the beginning of COVID, come due all at once. And if you're not paying them, you're going to go into default on your mortgage. So there's going to be opportunities for those of us that are looking for real estate investment opportunities to invest in these properties, save these people from defaulting on their mortgage and save them from foreclosure, and buy out the mortgage using a subject to model. And these are opportunities that Rebecca and I are going to be focusing on to help people, because that's a true real estate investment model. And then you hold the property and you rent the property, and we create this strategy around that to help you also get the visa. So Rebecca, I'm going to shut off the live for now and invite people to join us over on our podcast. And I'm also going to just mention one more thing, or before we switch. What in the world prompted you to become a realtor?
Do you know what, Lauren? I mean, when we lived in the UK, I probably, like many other people that are in my group, and I'm not naive, joined lots of other groups that are on Facebook looking for advice and help, and you know what to expect when we moved to Florida. I also went on to Zillow and Realtor.com trying to look at different houses, and felt very, very lost, really. You know, what was a foreclosure? What was a short sale? I didn't really understand any of that. And
they don't have foreclosures in Britain?
You do, but we don't, not as...
It's not a thing.
No, and we speak the same language, Lauren, right, but we don't speak the same language.
Correct. So true.
You know, I like you, I worked as a solicitor in the UK, but when
you know that I did not know that until I read your notes for the podcast. I didn't know that. I didn't know you were trained as a lawyer. I had no idea.
So when I came here, we wanted to invest in real estate, and selling real estate here is different to buying and selling properties in the United Kingdom. It is totally different. You cannot believe that although the two countries are so very, very similar, things are so very, very different. And you want to buy from someone that you know and you trust. And my husband and I fell into traps where you go to open houses, and we have those in England. They're becoming quite a new thing. And you have these realtors that literally, it's like they're like used car salespeople. You literally walk into the door and they latch onto you. And it wasn't a very nice buying experience. And, you know, eventually we found somebody, you know, we found our house, and I already knew that I wanted to get into real estate because we wanted to invest in
Makes sense.
And I kind of just thought, you know, this is what I wanted to do. The EXP is who I wanted to work for because of the model which they have, because of all the branches that they have all around the world. And then
and increasing every single day, adding more countries. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the UK, for one, works perfectly for people who are looking to sell their homes in the UK. We can help them buy property over here. It's just one continual happy family. So I know that if someone is moving from the UK looking to buy or invest with us, we speak the same language. It makes it much easier. So it was an easy step really for me, wanting to invest in property, to take my real estate license and then opening the group. It was just a natural progression really.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'm going to stop the live stream and we're going to switch over now. All right, live stream stopped. So tell me a little bit more, EXP. What prompted you? How did you learn about it? What did you learn about it before you got your license? Did you learn about it after? And why EXP? I know that you mentioned international, so let's talk about that since the name of this podcast is Investing Across Borders. What prompted you to join EXP?
Yeah, so it was when we were house hunting, really, the final realtor that we bumped into worked for EXP. And she had I had looked into a few, and one of the other agencies that I'd worked to was a large agency. One I would probably say is EXP's kind of equivalent.
Oh yes, I know the one. Must starts with a K.
Yeah. And I had kind of thought I was going to go with them, in all fairness. They had a good kind of a model, good training.
It's a very established brand, and EXP is, especially, how long ago did you join? 2 years?
No, a year, October.
Okay, so almost like me, because I'm a year pretty much like now. And so you were joining a relatively, at the time, it was an up and coming brand, but it certainly wasn't like now with the stock going crazy. The brand has made a huge mark. I mean, we talked about this the other day, and I'm sure you have way more stock than me because you're a production agent. I am unfortunately not at the end of the day, because, you know, my lawyer is being a lawyer is my first priority and my first focus. But when you think about it, the stock from the beginning of COVID to now went from $8 to it was over $60 right before the election, and now it's at 53 or 54. And when we joined, what was it, about $6 or something like that?
Yeah. But
so I mean, that story has helped us to certainly put EXP on the map in a lot of ways. And since Rebecca and I joined, we've added 3 new countries, and 3 more are coming on board before the end of this year. So we just onboarded India and South Africa, and we're about to onboard Portugal with a very dear friend of mine who ironically lives in Toronto, but he's from Brazil. So we're using Portugal to get to Brazil, because he's going to onboard both. And then we have Portugal, France, and Mexico, which will be really big for us here in the southern states.
Well, and getting the commercial branch as well, which I think is going to help immensely.
Absolutely. Commercial branch really launched in Florida last week, officially launched on Wednesday, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday. And there's just so much going on, because at the end of the day, my focus is on helping people invest across borders, invest, live, work, and play across borders. And what better way to invest than with real estate? And what better way to do it than with somebody like Rebecca that you know and trust, especially if you're from the UK. But also for Canadians, it's a different model as well, because the reason Canadians usually work with me is because even though I'm also American, I am Canadian and you are British, and we are different. And that's part of why you and I get along so well, because Canadians, even though we're so close in proximity to the US, we are still close in mentality to Britain, because it's a British Commonwealth country, right? Yeah. And when you think about it, yes, I was away this week with my boyfriend and his daughters and my son. And the daughters were making fun of things I was saying, because I don't even realize I say things like I say holy mackerel. I didn't know that was like a British thing, and it means Holy Mary. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Jewish. I didn't even know I was saying this thing. And like, just like that bloody whatever, you know, it's just, like you said, we speak the same language, but we don't. And,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people, when you come to America, I had to adjust the way I spoke. Like if I said sorry, so people made fun of me. So now I say sorry. Now, if I go to Toronto, people make fun of me. What are you talking about? So it's all about affinity, right? And that's what we have found together. And Rebecca and I met through EXP.
Yeah.
And EXP is so collaborative. And she has been one of my biggest proponents. And I think vice versa. We really support each other because at the end of the day, we want to work together and help each other because all of us help the stock price increase. It's not just one person at the top. And we're not selling EXP here, but it's just such a great model and such a great way to explore opportunities. I just had an investor referred to me this morning who just got licensed. And I said, have you heard about EXP? And she's all excited. She's joining our group call tomorrow. So there's a lot of really great things that are going on. Rebecca, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned in the notes that you sold everything and everybody is scared of this. It's a big deal. I left my home. I didn't have a family at the time when I moved to the States. I had my family still in Canada, so I had a backup plan. I still do. And for those of you that are a little jealous, I still have that backup plan and free healthcare available to me. So, but and the political world here, as we've talked about so many times, makes me wonder sometimes. But when you did that, how scared were you? I mean, here you are, you have 3 children. At the time they were, how old were your kids then?
8, no, 7, 10, no, less than that. Yeah, 7, 10, and 12.
These are young kids that are just making friends, and you're picking them up and moving them to not only a new country, but a whole new world.
Yeah.
Across the ocean, different language, so to speak. And how did they feel about it?
We didn't tell them, and I'm glad we didn't tell them when my husband first got the job, and I'm glad, because it's like when's Christmas?
Uh-huh.
And it's a lifetime, isn't it, for children?
It is.
We told them when we were finally granted our green cards, and even then that was still I think 12 months before we even had got to go to the embassies, so that was quite a long time for them to wait.
So you already have your green cards, or did you do the L1 and then you're doing?
No, we already have green cards.
You already do. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the beauty of the model, the way that when you come in as a skilled worker, there is kind of a direct path to a green card, which is not available as easily in other visa options. However, the key is that you work with a team that can convert your visa or have strategies so that you take what is not a quote unquote path to a green card and find a path to a green card. There are always solutions, right? So anyway, so you're back to your kids.
So we were worried about the children. We were really, really worried about the children. But do you know what? They have been so resilient, probably more resilient than my husband and I. They settled really well. We sat there and we were supposed to be going through what we wanted and what we didn't. And there were days we sat there in our old house looking at photographs and spending hours sorting through stuff. But they were great. We did literally sell everything. They had, we had those suitcases, which we bought their clothes in, and then we bought 30 tea chests of stuff. And that was it. We sold our house, everything that they knew. And my daughter, she was quite upset at leaving her room because that's all they knew. They had, from babies, they had been brought up at that. But then as we sold furniture and then all that was left was just the bare bones, actually they could see that we were going as a family. And that's what was most important. The house wasn't what was important. We were important because, we were coming as a family. And just to explain to them that, we believe as a family unit that in America they can have so many more opportunities here with sporting events. You know, my oldest son, he wants to fly, and we could afford for him to fly here, whereas in England we wouldn't be able to do that. And my one son, he wants to sail. He can sail all year round here. You know, where we lived in Dorset on the south coast of England, he could only sail for probably 8 weeks of the year because of the weather.
Wow. Yeah.
So just trying to explain to them that, you know, they had so much more opportunity here. Yes, we were all sad. We had to leave friends and family behind. But Lauren, you know, last year, one of my friends from Dorset, she visited for 4 weeks in the summer. My best friend from university, they came for over 4 weeks at
Right.
Christmas.
It's a popular place to visit.
Yeah, it's Florida. I mean,
Florida.
you know, people
Mickey is still here.
Yes. So, you know, other than this year when we were supposed to have friends,
crazy year.
People want to come and visit you, and they'll come and visit you for an extended period of time. It won't just be for a weekend or a week. So, you know, it's been tough this year because my brother was supposed to come and visit and he hasn't been able to, and neither of our friends. But luckily we've got Zoom and Skype and WhatsApp, so we've been able to keep in touch that way. But yeah, belongings, we've been able to buy new stuff.
Right.
It's just
you turn it into an adventure. That's the thing. And kids are resilient.
And do you know what? There've been days when I've thought, gosh, have we done the right thing? And then I look and think, wow, we would never have been able to afford this house with a pool, you know, and we have daily sunshine. We've never been able to have this dream in the UK. We said we would give it a good go, and we're giving it an absolutely good go. So there are days where you think, have I done the right thing? Don't get me wrong, there are those days. It isn't sunshine and, you know, butterflies every day. You do get those days where you miss being home. Don't get me wrong, you do. But then you look out and you think, well, it's sunshine and I'm wearing a pair of shorts and a spaghetti top, and life is good. Life is really, really good. And you
especially at this time of year when we see, like for me, you know, my mom sends me pictures of the piles of snow. Yeah. And I am not a snow person. I never was. I'm not a cold weather person. I don't like the really deep heat, but I like warmth. I like taking the dog for a walk every morning, and without, you know, I like not having to brush off the car. And yeah. I mean, I'm the one that used to go to school a half an hour early when I was in law school, so I could park close to law school, as close as possible. I would pay extra for the, you know, the premier parking pass, because I went to law school and I lived at home. Okay, I'm like the only one that did that, but I did. And so, but I literally would sit there, like we obviously I grew up in Canada, so everything's about hockey. And we called it parking sucking, goal sucking. Goal sucking means the two assistant captains skate around the back of the net waiting for the puck to come so that they can flip it into the net. And that's what I would do. I would just sit there at the front of the parking lot waiting, praying that somebody would leave so I didn't have to freeze to get to school. So anyway, yes, but there are days, especially through this, you know, this is the longest I haven't been home ever. It's a year. It's a year pretty much in like 2-3 weeks. It will be a year since I've seen my family, and it's hard. And my son is suffering, but I'm not willing to deal with a 2-week quarantine to go to Canada, so we stay. Yeah. And so far so good, thank goodness. But definitely there's issues in this state about the way that this whole mess has been handled, and there's issues in this country about the way that this whole mess has been handled. But you know, we have to look after our families and stay safe. And truthfully, I think out of all of the people that I've met at EXP, you are definitely one of the most supportive. You're always there. You always promote the events I do and the events that I speak at, trying to help people in your group. We don't charge for the group. We all offer free consults. We help everybody really to explore their options. And that's such a big deal, because for those of us that have actually been through it and do invest, Rebecca, right now, do you currently have real estate investments in Florida besides your home?
No, because we were about to invest and then COVID hit, and then personal circumstances changed.
Right.
So
But I think that now, like I myself am really excited about taking advantage, or not, I guess it's not really taking advantage, but making an impact while taking advantage of the market as it changes going forward. It has been extremely hot in most parts of Florida over the past several months because people want to get out of the cities and into more suburbia, which is where we are. But as that changes and as people are unfortunately not able to pay their mortgages, why not get them out of their situations and at the same time take advantage of an opportunity to make some money and convert those properties? Rebecca, how can people reach you? I know it's on your card in the back, but we're going to be, the podcast is audio only, so tell us how people can reach you, please.
Best way is probably by email. So it's Rebecca, REBECCA at English accent salesfl.com, or you can go onto my Facebook page, which is the best one, Lauren, I'm thinking.
Moving to Florida from the UK for sure. Yeah.
But I just wanted to add, actually, Lauren, because we were talking about collaboration. I can't get my teeth out today. It feels like a long week already, and everybody in the group trying to help everyone else. And that is because I'm thinking all the other groups which are available for you to join, and feel free to go and have a mooch around. I do find that they are very negative and
salesy, very salesy.
And you get the Facebook warriors that will give you lots of different inappropriate, incorrect, out of date advice. Lauren and I are not in the business to do that. We are in the business to try and get you to Florida. Lauren's in the business of getting you a visa and getting you a business plan. That's what her business is. My business is to get you some kind of real estate. We've got other people on the group, and like I said before, they are mainly British people who have done what you want to do, and they've got some fantastic stories to tell as to how they got here. I've chosen them because I work with them, or I've used them before, not because I've grabbed them off other Facebook groups.
Or because they're paying you, because that's not the case.
Nobody gets paid in the group. Let me have that clear. They're in the group because they want to help you all move here, and they will give you their best advice. If they don't know what the answer is, they will find someone that does. I do find some of these other groups extremely depressing when people say, don't come to America, it's the worst place on the world, health insurance is extremely expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, we all have to pay for health insurance, okay? And Lauren says she gets free health insurance in Canada. Now, effectively, we get free health insurance in the United Kingdom, but we don't, because we pay for it out of our
taxes.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you work it out, and that's what Keith and I did before we came, when you deduct how much you pay out for your taxes and national insurance, because we don't pay as much tax over here in Florida, and now we're paying for our insurance, actually, it's kind of the same. So don't listen to these people when they say, don't come, this is expensive, don't come, that's expensive. You've got to listen to people that have done it recently. Get lots of advice from people on the page. We're all here. There's people that are currently moving, who have just moved, not just the experts. There are other people that have just got E2 visas. Reach out and ask them. But like Lauren has said lots of times before, once you've chosen your experts, chosen your team, and I'm going to say, you know, our team is going to be the best. I'm obviously going to say that. Once you've chosen your team, please stick to that team.
Don't do forum shopping. You will drive yourself crazy. It's like going to the doctor and getting a diagnosis and then looking online, and you're going to find different answers. And it's not that you don't want to have a second opinion, but don't shop around. Just make the choice and stick with it. You're 100% right.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's lovely talking to Lauren, as always.
Thank you. As always, Rebecca, I thank you. It's a pleasure. I will see you at our event on Thursday and Friday. We're hosting an event, Empowered Women of Real Estate. And if you want to find out about investing in real estate in the US, specifically Florida with Rebecca, or in the US in general with both of us, I will help you create a strategy around which Rebecca will help you to create to build the investments, and we will help you to get a visa as a part of that process if that's what you so choose. And by the way, to get a visa to come to the US does not necessarily mean you have to move right away. Certain visas like the E2 that we've talked about, which are based on investment, there's no actual residency requirement. So there's a lot of options available that can give you free access back and forth across the border, not necessarily the border when it comes to the UK, but coming in and out of the country and going through customs and everything and security. And just make sure that you have the right guidance and the right professionals on your team. So thank you for your time, Rebecca. She is an amazing wealth of information, not just for Brits, but she will work with you even if you're not British, believe it or not.
Yes.
So, and does every day I see her doing a new closing because people just love her because she really has your best interest at heart. And it's a pleasure to work with you and to be a part of your group. And we are here to serve. So thanks everybody. Investing Across Borders. I'm Lauren Cohen, international legal and real estate expert, and I'm very proud to be hosting this podcast to bring information to you, our listeners, so that you can learn how to invest, live, work, and play across borders. Thank you. Signing out. Not letting me stop. Oh, there we go.